welcome to a new episode of the Advancing Consciousness series with Franco Di Nicola. This is a place where people can come to gain further insight and clarity as to what is going on and how we can shift things on a personal and global level, while also accessing higher levels of consciousness and awareness. We bring this series to you free of charge so that many are able to access this information. And if you resonate with what Franco shares and you would like to support his work, contributions are welcomed and greatly appreciated. A link is in the description and will be provided in the chat if you feel guided to do so. Also, we have many previous workshops, such as the most recent, Actualizing Beyond Your Current State to Live Your New Reality, along with our membership program, Let's Talk About You, where like-minded people come together bi-weekly to talk about the topics requiring deeper understanding and clarity. All of these are available on Teachable, and we encourage you to check them out as they are great resources at very affordable prices to assist in better understanding this human experience. The Teachable link will also be provided in the chat and description. And lastly, don't forget to share. As more of us are coming together and creating a shift in oneself, the more effective it will be to shift things globally. Thank you for joining us and being part of this change. Enjoy today's broadcast.
Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Advancing Consciousness series. This is a series that you have catered and designed to support you on this beautiful journey that we are doing together. And of course, as so much is changing right now, it is highly beneficial and highly powerful for us to come together and really share our wisdom, our consciousness, our awareness, and whatever is going on and get a deeper understanding. So today, we have episode 77, and we're going to be looking at, very much so, true power of pure love. And I know there's a lot of talk about love. Love is the answer, love is everything, and so forth. But do we truly understand what pure love is? There's many, many forms of love. A lot of people are aware of it. Of course, we've talked about, the unconditional love and conditional love. But are we talking about something else altogether when we're talking about true love? We're now going to another level. That level of true love basically is your connection to your sourceness, your essence. Love is an expression. Love is a creation. This particular love that we're talking about is a love that has no barriers, no limits whatsoever, and sees every aspect as a beautiful dance with no separation whatsoever. And how powerful is it? Because that's what the topic is today. The true power of pure love. I know we're all going through transformations. We're all dealing with all types of things. It could be physically, could be emotionally, could be whatever. We're surrounded by other energies around us, but also our role, our life, our experience, everything that's been playing out for you. We're in the depths of it. And I know many of you have called to speed things up, to move things forward. And that has been answered by you or aspects of you together. And we are doing through that, moving through that quick process. And the process itself has a tremendous amount of intensities that are required for us to unlock us, to basically unstuck us from the states that we were in before. With this whole thing about this pure love and what has capacities within it and what we can do is phenomenal. So I was saying right now, we have chosen to move forward in a powerful way, so we are feeling it. We're feeling it not only from physical aspects, emotional aspects, and whatever is going on around us, and also the energies that are coming through. With all of that that's playing out right now, it's been a very, very, very powerful way for us to be able to experience things way beyond what we've experienced before. Now, with all that speeding up and that intensities and so forth, it's there to dislodge us from our unstuck state, to dislodge us from, being stuck in an old pattern and all of our old world. So with any changes at this point, we go through a physical transformation. We go through an emotional transformation. We go through a operating system transformation, but also our playground. Our playground is a reflection of us. Gaia is going through changes, and it's also emanating. The whole solar system, galaxy, universe, all of it is going through changes. Through these changes that we're going through, this speeding up and everything else, the dislodging I was talking about is also affecting and very intensifying our main operating system and all the systems within it. And many of you that have followed my work have basically know, and I've talked about it many times, that the transformation we're going through is the dissolving of the old world, the dissolving of that inverted world, dissolving all the systems that were created in the inverted world, all of our stories, programs, belief systems, all of our stuff that we've kind of labeled, defined ourselves by, all of it is going through transformation right now. All of it is being dissolved so that we can actually bring forth our true higher nature of ourselves. As we're going through this, it's going to feel, and it doesn't have to be painful, but at times pain ends up being a way for us to dislodge or change or to have the intensity and the push to move forward. Because you notice, if you are not resisting and there's not an old part of you that's trying to keep everything together, you will find the transition a lot more easily, or it's easier to go through the transition without having the intensities of pain. Now, some of the pain physically and otherwise and emotional may be locked up stuff that we have within our own operating system, stuff that we've taken on through our lineage, stuff we've taken on through our communities and connections and so forth, that we have gracefully, unconsciously agreed to work through it, because everything that we work through is advancing the whole. It's advancing not only you, but everything that exists on this playground at this point in time. So all of it has been serving in that respect. With all of that that's coming in, we have this tool that we haven't used really that much, and that is pure love. When we're going into that state of pure love, it actually accesses our true nature. It gives us superpowers, if you want to call it that. So anything that we're moving through, whatever is going on, will actually move out of the way, dissolve with much more ease when utilizing pure love. Now, I'm going to talk about the different loves and as we go forward. So let's do this. Let's shrink it back up here. All right. All right. So today we're going to be talking about the true power of pure love. And then, of course, we're going to continue with the questions afterwards. Okay, pure love is the most powerful and transformative energy and state to be in. When you're in a state of pure love, you are emanating your sourceness in a more refined state. As sourceness, you're now embodying creator state more powerful. What happens in creator state? You see that everything is a creation. Everything is an opportunity to learn, to expand and grow and do whatever you choose to do. But at the same time, you can change any part of it. But when you're looking at it from the eyes of pure love, there's no judgment of what anything looks like. It doesn't go into the discreating and recreating because it has an issue with any of the older creations or whatever is still reflective around it. It sees the beauty, it will tap into it, utilize whatever it can to its highest benefit for your own expansion and so forth, and then go through the discreation and creating something new. The discreation is because it's all been utilized. It no longer serves and we can move on. But when that transition and dissolving or discreating, whatever you want to call it, is not going to be something difficult to do. It actually becomes very easy because it's like something that you finally completed. I'm done with this experience and I can let it go. And what happens when you let it go? Not only are you freeing yourself because you're not carrying that, but you allow it to go back into the field, which is all sourceness, it's all essence and all energy. And it merges in that and becomes more access of consciousness and frequencies that you could use. It never stays in its rigid form. It always goes back to a pure, pure state. So when we are going through these changes, by utilizing and using this pure love, accessing that part that's within you, your true, true nature, no matter what is playing out, whatever you're being exposed to, allows you to see it not only much more clearly, but more playfully. And you're able to see how you can just move things around, and you're just basically now making adjustments to match where you're at. That's all. And where you're at is evolving anyways. So even our world, it's, as long as we're still giving power to the polarized old world, new world, yeah, the new world is a creation. It's a constant expanding creation that we've chosen to participate in. And we're bringing it forth. It's unpacking through us. But the old world has to dissolve, and that will dissolve step by step because, mind you, many of us are here still gaining certain parts as we're going through these transitions at this point. You don't have to wait for anybody. You can allow that to happen much more freely for you. So when you are going and experiencing this pure love, then any rigidity will dissolve, any so-called pain will actually transform, and it becomes its natural state, which is just a sensorial experience, which you can choose to support or not, or to maintain as part of your experience until it no longer serves you. So you can move through things a lot easier. And that's the beauty and the power within all of that. When we really, really look at all of this, there has been so many people have talked about over the years, and other so-called gurus and other masters and whatever else you're calling it. And basically those are just labels that are given. But in fact, they're, versions of ourselves that have gone through some experiences and have gained a certain access of knowledge or experience, depending on wherever it chose to play with, that has been sharing it with us. Sharing with the different individuals. But what are they sharing? They always talk about love being love and how powerful that is. So in an essence, it's very transformative. It moves things a lot quicker. So imagine if we had tremendous pure love for everything that's playing out. And we all started to play with that. Would you just see how easily you could see how things will change? Because love encompasses all. It's no longer fragmented. You can play in fragmentation, but you're not going to fragment it to the same degree. You can be in a situation where you can have different versions of yourself, other playmates and so forth, but you're not going to see anything with it except for a beautiful appreciation and love that you have within it in that point. But it becomes inclusive. So when you're in true love, or pure love in this case, pure love, it's all inclusive. So you see everything as is. So now you want to take action and design things that bring the rest of you involved in it, not as an expectation, but as a natural opening. It's like opening your doors, your heart, and allowing all other aspects of yourself. So the dissolving of the old world will move a lot quicker, because then everything is created to look at the whole picture. It's not fragmented. It's not about certain sectors or certain areas of life or anything of that nature, or just you or anything. And of course, it starts from you, but it's inclusive. It includes all aspects of it. And then when we are engaging in pure love, you're not going to have judgment. There's no resentment. There is no fighting required. It doesn't mean you blame anybody. You don't have to demonize anybody, because you see everybody for what it is. they're all playmates. Now, you may choose not to agree or support whatever that polarity may have represented because it's an old version that no longer fits into your reality, but you still do not demonize it or and so forth. So you're not looking for somebody to blame. You're not looking for somebody to destroy or, to punish or anything of that nature, because at that point in time, you see everything through that source essence. Because when you're looking at as pure love, you're looking through the eyes of source, as what we call the spirit of creation, creator, okay? As a creator, it sees all of these facets of billions and billions of creations and playgrounds and versions of itself, creating all types of different opportunities and experiences and so forth on so many solar systems and galaxies and universes and so forth. And all of them are at different degrees of experiences and so forth. And all of that is seen as a play. Because first of all, it doesn't matter if you're focusing in light or dark or whatever it is, and that I've explained that what that means. But when we're looking at that picture, when we're looking at how all of that even looks, okay, you're seeing that those polarities or whatever was put in at that time served, and it gave us an experience that could have not done without it. Now, does it still serve? Possibly not, but we've already agreed that we're done with that, and we want to align with the advancement of our whole galaxy and our universe. So this is why we're doing this. But through the eyes of sourceness, you're not going to see and focus on right, wrong, good, bad, who did this, who didn't do that, or anything of that nature. Because the moment you free yourself from that, when you're looking through the eyes of pure love or a source, then you can move things very quickly. There's no hooks, there's no entanglement, none of that exists. I'm sharing this because this is really the root within your heart. Many times we all block our hearts because feeling that if we love things, that we're going to give it power. Well, you have to understand, if you open your heart and allow pure love come out, which is you open the gates, or you allow those filters and whatever else that we put on to move out of the way so that we're actually emanating. So you can imagine anything that chooses to play in the lower frequency, in darkness, whatever else, will either dissipate or just melt away in a sense. Basically, it becomes part of that. It's not like you're going to give power because I love what people call darkness, that I'm going to give power to darkness. No, when you love what people call darkness, it dissolves darkness, or it moves away based on whatever it chooses to do at that point in time, because you're now shining a beautiful, powerful beam of yourself in that pure state. Now, if you see what you call dark, or people call dark, and then we demonize it, we blame it, we judge it, that's giving it power. Because what you're doing when you're going into that state of judgment and condemnation and demonizing whatever, you're lowering your frequency, and you're now feeding, okay, exactly what you're having an issue with. And this happens to any part of our experience too. If we have any hate for ourselves, we're going to accentuate whatever those hatreds are based on. But when you love every part of it, whatever is there dissolves. All lower frequencies dissolve. Why? Because love is a very high frequency. When you get more of that pure state without the little filters that we keep putting layers on or have put on layers, your vibration goes so high that you're tapping into that. You're basically emanating source in its purified state without having the creation of those lower states. And that's how it works with that. Okay. Pure love is your sourceness in action, because you are source. You can't be outside of source. No one can be out of source. Nothing can be outside of source. Nothing can exist outside of source. and you are source. So you are a part of source that is creating in source and is emanating a playground or an experience, but you're still source. So pure love is your sourceness in action. Remember, I said there's source, and then the version of source, which is within source, that we call spirit, just a name, spirit, which is source in action. When you're in that pure love state, you're now so closely connected and so easily flowing that sourceness in action. So what is sourceness in action? First of all, there is nothing that it sees outside of itself. Second of all, it sees all beautiful experiences and opportunities, and because it's in action, it can experience it and change it easily. This is what we're going through. We see it. So when we are emanating love, because that is our true nature, then things change very easily. So that's source in action, which you are the source, stepping things up. So it is the very energy and consciousness of creation. Exactly. It's the very, very energy and consciousness of creation. What is source? It's energy, it's consciousness through spectrums of light that it creates. Okay? You're that. You're exactly that. And you may have tuned yourself down to come and play here. And yes, it maybe got tuned down even further to play in that inverted world. But what are we doing? We're just upgrading. We're just shifting. We're just raising our vibration. We're accessing more consciousness. We're accessing more energy. And we're becoming more fluid, more freely to create. You're going to go through the level of creation where you go back to sourceness itself, where you can't go back. You become merged in the sourceness. The creation in action unplugs itself so that it's basically just the source. Yes, at some point, that could be, many millions of years from now or whatever. That's an option we have. And it could be tomorrow. Doesn't matter. That's a choice we make. But you're here to play. You're here to experience now. So that what are you going to do? You basically, this is what's happening with this transformation. We're accessing more of our higher self and applying it in our playground. It's not to step out of the playground. It doesn't matter if you said, beam me up, Scotty, get me out of here. I can't stand this place. This is not home or anything of that nature. It doesn't matter because, again, you're going to see that through ego eyes. You're going to see it from a right, wrong, good, bad, polarized state. That's what you're looking at. When you don't see it as a polarized state, you now see the beautiful dance for what it is. And of course you have the freedom if you want to play here anymore or not. Of course the body has a choice, your human entity has a choice, which is your human soul, and your multidimensional soul has an option at this point in time to stay or to do whatever. But all of it is just finally getting used to each other and working more in alignment, even though it was always in alignment from day one, but it did fragment itself. It fragmented itself. Now it's defragging, it's aligning, it's basically working together. So that's what we're doing. We're accessing that part of consciousness. So very few that know, very few know that pure love is our very nature. Okay? I know that's been said a lot. A lot of times that people talk about it, But do you really deeply realize that pure love is natural? It's not the love that we got accustomed to in playing in this playground. Okay? It's not that what you call conditional love, unconditional love, or anything of that nature. It is our natural state. So in fact, it takes a lot of effort for us not to experience pure love. As your beautiful infant state, when you came here, in your entry point, if you went through the birthing process, you were in that pure love state. Before you chose to take on a body and connect with a human entity, soul, and so forth, you were coming from that state. You always tap into that state first. Because if you do not tap into that pure love state, you will have a real issue, and I use these words loosely, a real issue to choose. Because then you're going to look at a potential body, a potential set of parents, a potential human entity, and you're going to have issues with all of that. You're going to judge it. Now, of course, judging of that nature is different in non-form versus that. But when you're seeing it from that true perspective of pure love, then you're just basically going to look at all the options you have, all the potential bodies you can take on, and you will have the option for what roles your parents will play, other people, siblings, and so forth will play, and also how you choose to embody, where on the planet, and so forth. Now you see the opportunity, but the opportunity will be best to suit what you are choosing to achieve, and nothing more. You're not going to look at it and say, well, that's going to be, I got to go try and play in that hellhole, or I'm going to have that experience. Even if your parent, for example, is homeless, or it's living in a disruptive or what we call polarized relationship, it could be only one parent as an entry point. There's many options, many things. It could be on a part of the planet where people call third world or wherever there's lack. It's not going to say, well, I want this versus that because this is better than that, and so forth. It doesn't look at that. It just looks at it and sees it's a game. What playground am I going to go into? What can I get out of this? What am I going to achieve that I have not achieved yet? Experientially, and also as an opportunity to expand and grow. That's how it looks at it. It doesn't look at it any other way. It does not look at it in any other way. So it's a whole different viewpoint. I do realize there is confusion when we look at love. Yes, a lot of people are confused about love. Okay? I know, because we get into states of experiences and we love certain people a certain way, some people we don't love, we can even hate. We get into situations where love is very conditional, means if it meets certain requirements or this or that, then we love. Okay? We are even taught how to love. You love under these circumstances, you only love these people, or you love only this situation, or you love this and hate that. This applies across the board. And an expectation that's applied. Well, I'm your parent, you gotta love me no matter what. Or that person did this, and that's why you cannot love them or hate them as the next step. So when you're really looking at that, it can get extremely confusing. I've heard from people say, I don't know who to love. I'm even afraid to love because I can get hurt. And if I love too much, I'm going to lose myself. If I dive into love, I will have no control of my life. That's some of the things that people play with. And I understand it because that's how we created it in a way through that inverted world. Because love is not that complicated. Kimberly knows. It's not that complicated. But we've made it complicated. We conditioned and programmed to see love very differently. Of course, some of us have come through religion and other things, and you gotta love your flag, you gotta love your religion, you gotta love this deity, and so forth. And if other deities you have to hate, or other flags you gotta hate, or other whatever. I'm just saying country, flag, whatever. I mean country and religion. And different races and so forth. But that's all conditioning and programming, which was great to create that inverted world because we chose to come into that inverted world. You all had the option at this point in time when to come in, what stage of progress, what stage of evolution, if you want to call it that word, or state of consciousness. You're here because you wanted to catch the different stages of the waves, to complete, to experience, to do whatever you chose to do along the way. That's the beauty. So you're here because of that. You're here because you chose to be here, to catch the different waves. Did you come too early? Hey, many of us may have thought that at one point or another, including myself. When I did arrive, I thought, I'm way too early to do what I came here to do. We're talking a long time ago, 6 decades ago, looking at this and going, wait a minute, we're in the 50s here. Progress of us even getting to a level of understanding is a long ways away. But it was a great opportunity to really learn the ropes and to go and have experiences I couldn't possibly have, and also be able to carry a certain amount of that knowing and also play the game, which was challenging at first and pretty well challenging all the way. And now you can't even entertain it. And many of you are going through that step right now because you've already started to embody the new world. So the old world doesn't even make sense. And the old world doesn't even feel comfortable for you as it's going through the transition. So it's where you connect with yourself in a pure state of love. So yeah, there is a lot of confusion, that's for sure. There are many versions and beliefs around love. As I just pointed out, who to love, who not to love, what, and so forth. And the different levels of love. Some people you love a little more, some people you love a little less. So even if you stayed unconditional love, that has variance. You think unconditional love, or let's work with conditional. Even conditional love has many levels of conditions. The richer it gets, in meaning how many more conditions you apply, now it's even harder to even label it as love. If we have a list of things that we have to meet, or anybody has to meet, or any circumstance or situation has to meet before you can even experience a tad of love. Is it pure love? No, of course not. There might be a little smidget of a drop in there, but really what are we looking at? We're looking at a programmed egotistic love of sorts. So the level of conditioning or conditions and expectations and so forth for us to love varies. It can start off small and it could just add up. Every time you have an experience you labeled as good, bad, right, wrong, you may add another condition to it. Or you may started to love in a certain way, and because certain things didn't play out a certain way, of course we started adding conditions. We all started without, and then we just added conditions. Some conditions go up and down. Now, depending on how you feel about yourself too, will change that too. So if you don't feel that good, your conditions will reduce. Because you already have a bunch of other conditions on yourself, so saying, well, how am I going to match? So I better reduce my conditioning, my conditions of what to experience love as not. And when we're talking about unconditional love, so conditioned love basically requires expectations, conditions, and so forth. So you can go in and out of love in the same time. You can be with a partner, you can be with a child, or whatever it is. They just got to push your button, annoy you a little bit, say something that really is not in your favor because you've labeled it as that, and you can go from loving, I love you, I love you, I love you, to the point, maybe not all the way to hate, but at that point in time, love drops and you're experiencing the opposite. Maybe a reduced rate of hate or judgment or whatever it is. Okay? Blame, guilt, you name it, blame in this case. So you could see that. You can see. Now, when we're talking about unconditional love, so let's see what else I got written here. So most of us refer to conditional love. That's what people know. We fall in love. How do we fall in love? Yeah, okay, you could say there's some chemistry. Yes, you can say, hey, wait a minute, you know something? They met my requirements, so I will love them. Or and somehow you got conditioned that love looks like this. And that's what we're looking at. So we can experience love and hate on both polarities, whatever circumstance is going on. I love this, I hate that. That's far from true love, or pure love in this case. We're just basically looking at different things of conditioning. So many of us refer to conditional love, which one can love at one point and then hate if specific requirements are not met. We do this all the time. We meet up with a partner. We usually have a list, even if it's in your own head, or that we've adopted that somebody coming into your life should be this way. Yes, of course, we have other parts of love that come into the mix. Let me share a little tidbit. You probably heard about the 20-20 rule, 20%, 80%. Let me give you a little tidbit. 80% of relationships, what we call romantic relationships, just to give you a little tidbit of this, romantic relationship, okay, is conditional love. It's held up by different stories and conditions. I need this person in my life because it has to complete me, or this or that, whatever it is, or the fact that they were on my list of all the things I wanted from somebody, or something of that nature, or the fact that, oh, somebody's actually paying attention to me or wants to be with me. That's all conditional. So I'm going to love this person because they're saying the right things or whatever it is. How many of us fell in love and then fell out of love, or it varied along the way because you had this idea that it's going to look a certain way, and then it didn't meet all of those requirements, or more of those requirements were exposed not to be met, and then what happened? It changes. The other 20%, basically at this point in time, is a heart love. It's people drawn together to play a particular role. It doesn't matter what the roles are, it's pure. It's actually more what we call unconditional. It doesn't matter what it is. And that's just in a so-called romantic love. But I'll cover that a little bit more. So when we're talking about the conditional love, it will vary. This type of love is mostly ego and program based. That's why I was saying you would apply lists. Your programming would be, this is lovable, this is not lovable. We do this with ourselves. We do it with others. We do it with circumstances. We do it in family dynamics. You name it. It's all over the place. So when you're looking at it, it's just the ego and programming. What to love and not to love. And if somebody says this, it's done. I can go from love to hate. So when you're looking at that, just to get a deeper understanding. So most of what we're talking about this is ego and programmed love, or based type of love category. That's what it is. So this is so you understand that how many of us are in relationships. I'm just giving you one. As relationships that are very conditionally based. This is why people come and go in our lives. I'm not talking about, we're done with the experience, because everything is an experience. And of course, there's nothing wrong to be in a conditional love. You're going to come to a realization, even if you're on unconditional love, that at some point it no longer serves and you go apart because it's done. But there's a beautiful, loving relationship that comes apart that wants the very best or sees the very best in each other no matter where they're going to go. It's not a matter of you're leaving me and now I got to hate you or anything of that nature. That doesn't happen when you're in this state of love. This is what we can call the unconditional. But also in the unconditional, there's the next level, which we call pure love. That is also a very powerful part of it. It's a little smaller ratio than the 20%. But the thing is, it doesn't matter if it's 80 or 20. It does not matter because all of it serves to the degree it serves. Then we have what many also refer to as unconditional love, which is a step up. Sure, from conditional to unconditional, a lot of people talk about it. Oh yeah, we're looking for unconditional love. Okay? Unconditional. Many experiences with certain people in their life or circumstances which can be conditionally based. So you have unconditional love. Do you have unconditional love with everybody? With every circumstances? Or is it, I have unconditional love for these individuals, for this circumstance, for these playmates that are involved? How many parents have said, I have unconditional love with my kids? Yeah, you may, but you can also experience the opposite. But you still have on the underlining, it's my kid, I have to have unconditional love. I'm not saying everybody's that way because, hey, you can have your kids and still be very conditional. But the thing is, the question is, true uncondition, okay, it's across the board for everything. It's not just handpicked. And that's what we need to understand. That's only a step up. And many of us experience unconditional love with different playmates and partners and so forth. Yeah, you could be in a partner that may play a negative role and you still have unconditional love because you love them. And there's a part of them you understand that is a reflection of you, but whatever it is, so you're experiencing unconditional love. You may not like what they're doing. You may have an issue with what they're doing or what they represent, but you still love them unconditionally. But what happens when you plug in pure love? Because that's your true nature. Now you see them as a beautiful representation of whatever that may be. Conditional or unconditional doesn't even come into the equation. Because pure love has no categorization, has no pockets. It's basically across the board. All of it, dark, light, you name it. All of it is pure love. You're loving every part of it because every part of it is you. Every part of you is an expression. Every part of you is completing or creating the experience that would be involved. The moment you come on the planet, you are bringing into your reality every single facet of yourself here, playing whatever role, night, light, dark, right, wrong, good, bad, whatever. Okay? But you enter in, but you have the freedom to navigate and move and reconstruct or even redesign new assignments to everybody. Not because you have a judgment, because it's pure love. Let's move on. Let's create something even grander. It's not getting stuck. So that's the difference. So the thing is, yeah, you can have unconditional love, but to who? With how many people you have unconditional love? Look at it in your own life. Do you have truly unconditional love that does not fluctuate? Because this is the other part. Unconditional love also fluctuate in its intensity. But I'm not saying because even true love fluctuates until you reach the maximum true love state, but that fluctuation is very different than unconditional love. It fluctuates. I love you more, I love you a little less. You still love them, but it will vary. And when they do something really sweet, your love quotient goes up, or portion goes up. You're increased. You're accessing that higher love. But that's unconditional love, because it has that variance. You may still love them no matter what, but you love them a little less. But in pure love, there's no. You only go one direction, and that is further and further and further, deeper in that love. And in that love is so powerful, it transforms a lot around you. So imagine your kids or whatever is choosing to go down a certain path. Yes, you're going to share. Yes, you're going to let them see something that they're not wanting, that they're not seeing, but it's up to them if they accept it or not. You can't control them because they're another facet of you, but you have beautiful love. And when you present information from pure love, it's a pure understanding. I love you. I see it. I'm also seeing something that you're not seeing, and I just wanted to share it with you, but I love you so much that you can go out and play whatever you choose to play, no matter what it is. Very different. So, if you're playing with unconditional love or conditional love, both are limiting and in many ways unnatural and do promote some form of polarity. Wow, didn't know that. You can have polarity between the two. Of course you know that. You know that conditional love has polarity. Even unconditional love. That's why I was saying you will have different degrees of love because you have a label. So you could say it's unconditional, but it will vary. Certain you love more or less, and then whatever they play you love or less. So you're not going to go from, see, conditional you can go from love to hate or anything in between. Unconditional you can go from super love to a lower quality of love. Okay? That's what most people are understanding is unconditional love. And of course, unconditional love will have its variance with whoever they're playing with. When you're in pure love, it doesn't fluctuate in that regard. It can't go from pure love to something else. You're just in pure love. And that pure love encompasses everything. Hugely different. That make any sense to you?
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. So, on the other hand, true love is massively expansive. How so? Well, when you're in true love, you're in creator mode on steroids. I'm just using that as a play. But you're in that pure state. So it's expansive, has tremendous potentiality while accessing our pure resources. How does that work? Because when you're in pure love, you're experiencing play. You're experiencing freedom. In pure love, you have no judgment, so you're free to play with whatever you choose. But you're not running away from anything. You choose to put your focus and play with whatever matches you at that point in time. And in that state of pure love, you're actually shaping everything around you, constantly shaping and upgrading it. In that state of pure love, you have no limits. It's expansive. Because it encompasses everything. Like I said, you're not running away, it's embracing all of it. But your focus is not in all areas of how you choose to play, but your expansiveness, that pure love, is also transforming everything. This is why right now accessing and playing with pure love will create an avalanche, will create a powerful stream of transformation with much more ease. It doesn't matter how many walls are up, how many levels of resistance. It doesn't matter how many negative role players are out there. It will dissolve so quickly as we're accessing that pure love. Pure love can play with all of it, but at the same time, pure love is always choosing to be free and expansive. When you're in that state of pure love, in that level of creation, you're going to notice a lot of the older creations doesn't fit in, and that's okay because it was created without or a very low injection of pure love. That's all. But we have no judgment about it. So it is expansive. And you're accessing your pure resources. When you are in pure love, you have no issues playing anywhere and doing anything. You're free. Yes, you may have preferences, and the preferences will continue to change because you're expanding. But you're not running away, like I was saying. You're staying the course. It's not like, where can I go next? You're just beaming out this pure love because it is coming from you. You can't even contain it. It emanates. You're oozing pure love. And it's contagious. Really contagious. And I don't care how many masks you have on. It's contagious. What are you doing? You're triggering others around you because pure love is their natural state. You're almost like giving them permission, but you're also igniting them. So you're the fire, for example, and everybody's walking around, and you're igniting everybody. You're igniting the whole world. With what? Pure love. You were going to say something?
I'm going to assume that you're going to answer this question, but I'm going to ask it anyways.
Okay.
Because someone is asking. Hold on for a second. How do we get to experience that true love?
Not today.
Not today.
You got to pay another admission for that one.
That's for another episode.
That's another episode.
Costs a lot of money.
Okay. Just remind me before I get
don't
it.
worry.
Okay. So, in pure love, how do you get there? All right? Good timing for the question. First thing is loving our past and our current circumstances, our addictions, our ego, and our body. So how do we access that? We start to notice the judgment that we have about ourselves, about others, about circumstances, about our past. That's why we're talking about clearing up the stories, programs, and belief systems. But see, this pure love is within us. You cannot extinguish it. You can cover it up. But with what? Yes, of course, if we allow it, we'll dissolve all of it. And that's where the thing is. So when you tap into it, you go into that quiet state, you tap into it. You can easily say to yourself, I now fully activate to the massive degree I can possibly handle at this point in time, pure love. What happens? You start to beam. You start to burn through all those layers. But what are these layers? It always goes back to yourself. Because many of us, see, this conditional love, unconditional love, and pure love applies with our journey. With ourselves, with our body. You could say, okay, I have conditional love for myself. If I look a certain way, if I act a certain way, if I talk a certain way, I can love myself. If other people tell me I'm okay, I'm cool, or whatever it is, I can love myself. If I'm getting all this confirmation how amazing I am, I can love myself a little more. But the real thing about even experiencing love, because those are just little sparks, is basically looking at what the list you have of conditions that are there to prevent you from experiencing love. Now, if we look at the unconditional love aspect of it, you could say, okay, I'm having unconditional love for myself. Doesn't matter. I love myself no matter what. And a lot of people are saying, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. But how deep are you going into that love? Are you just tapping into it and saying, okay, unconditional love for myself? Just to give you an example. Okay? So, say this is pure love right here. And you have conditional love. I'm not going to write the whole thing. So you have different levels of conditional love. or unconditional love, sorry. I should put unconditional. Better make a better looking end there. Unconditional love. Remember what I'm saying? It varies. So you say, I have issues with myself. I don't really like myself, but I have unconditional love. You're down here. As you start taking a little bit of the labels away, more of the labels of what you don't like about yourself, all those labels, I don't like myself, you judge yourself, you start removing more and more of it, you're just going up a little bit. And you can get to this level of unconditional love. When you access pure love by dropping all the rest of it, when you're in this range, this pure love state, it doesn't see any flaws or sees anything. It sees a beautiful representation expression that you are. Every choice you made, every choice you didn't make, every so-called idea of direction or anything else that played out, what you said, you didn't say, what you look like, what you don't look like, or any of that stuff does not even come into the equation. You are you. In whatever expression that is, you're now accessing pure love. So really, what holds us back? It's all the labels that we've put in. So that part of you wants to expand and grow, and that's already being stimulated very powerfully. This is why a lot of you, where you were in conditioned states, have gone to unconditional. Kind of more broadly, meaning that you're more unconditional with whatever's going on the planet. You're still varying, of course. But when you're getting into that pure love, there is no conditions. At that point, it doesn't even bring into the equation. It does not exist. You love every part of it. Of course, you have the preference of what you play with or don't. So, yes, it very much assists us to dissolve anything that pulls you out of love. So what do? You pay attention. The moment you have a judgment of yourself, or you see yourself as this or that or whatever it is, that is a program, story, belief system, and so forth that is showing up so that you can unravel it, first acknowledge it, thank it, love it, free it, and then you're accessing more true love. Now, I know you're getting a lot of assistance with every download that's going on, every burst that we go on to bring this pure love out. But at the same time, it requires us to let go of all of that. It's inside of you, it's you. It's not outside of you. It's not even effortful. But at the same time, we have all these barriers that we've put in. So by looking at your life for every part that's going on or has gone on, and that's why we were saying looking at your past, okay, past and even current situation, and see it from pure love, you can easily say, I choose right now to look at my past, whatever that may have been, it could have been traumatic or not, with the eyes of love. So I activate in me pure love, and I choose to see that circumstance, that interactions, those playmates in your past through that pure love. You may have to repeat it a few times, but when you start looking at and something comes up and you say, no, I want to increase my capacity to see it with pure love, you're going to see how it transforms the interaction, how it transformed what you saw then or what you've seen up to now actually take a different form. It could dissolve. A lot of the different perceptions and labels and judgments and so forth will just dissolve. So you're seeing it in more its pure state. And what are you seeing? Play. You see the individuals, if there's one involved, or group or whatever, as your playmates, as opportunities of expression of true love. Because we could play a negative role through a pure true love. I'm not saying for ourselves, but even someone else playing it or vice versa, because that was necessary to bring up certain things and have certain experiences. You were going to say something? Oh, no? Okay.
Yeah, someone was just asking, how does pure love work in relation to 0 point neutrality?
Well, it's all interconnected, right? When you're accessing pure love, you're basically complete neutrality. That's what neutrality is. Neutrality is pure love because it has no polarization, no right, wrong, good, bad. It can play a little bit with it, but it is not categorized. It's not pushing away from each other. 0 point, of course, that's what it is. When you're accessing 0 point, you're accessing pure love, pure creator essence that you are, the spirit of creation that you are. And in 0 point, everything is in form of flexibility, so you can create from it with no rigidity, no restrictions and limits whatsoever. So it's all interconnected. It's all one with that. So true love is what we call neutrality. That's why we talk about neutrality. Because if you see everything in neutrality, you're basically seeing it as pure love. When you're seeing it as neutrality, you're not going to see right, wrong, good, bad. You see everything as is and how it may have served and may still be serving for other aspects of yourself that are still playing with it. But at the same time, in neutrality, you can move through it with ease because it's not sticky. You don't have an entanglement or anything of that nature. And pure love is not, neutrality is not just sitting back and doing nothing or just basically saying, I'm not seeing what's going on, and it's a very passive state. It's a very active state. Because how many of us get paralyzed when we're playing in the polarized world? We're in the light and I'm afraid to even look at the dark and I got to keep pushing into the light. Or I'm in the dark and I can't look at the other parts of it because of whatever. In neutrality, you see it all. You see it all. You choose to play how you choose to play, and you can vary a little bit here and there because but you're in action. So you're not going to resist yourself from doing this or that. You can play with any part of it, but you're bringing that true love wherever you're playing, and that's transforming the whole playground wherever you are and all the individuals involved in it. That's how powerful it is. So the thing is, this is why I say neutrality is very powerful, which is basically access of pure love, because at that point in time, whatever happened in your life, whatever is taking place, whatever it is, you're not going to be judging it, comparing it, or demonizing it, or accentuating the polarization. You basically see the whole dance, and now you are more active to play and reshape the dance to match the new frequencies, the new state of consciousness coming onto the planet, and the new state that you're becoming. That's where it's very different. So it's about going into that pure love with your own body, with everything that's around you, whatever the circumstances, and even loving your addictions. Because when you have pure love for the addictions, you can see what the addiction is presenting. It's also showing you where it's using it as compensation for something. Because when you are in pure love for that, not only your body, but your circumstances and so forth, addictions don't have that much capacity or power to even play anything. Even the body changes. It doesn't matter how much, because we're very energetically, but also chemistry-wise, it's changed by the energetics because we're mostly water anyways. So, but at the same time, when we're looking at it, at our addiction, we have no judgment about it. We don't feel bad about it. We see it how it has served and brought you where you are today. But now, how do I serve moving forward? It's very different. Okay? So loving your addiction will allow you to change it. Why are you changing it in the first place? Well, because, first of all, you're not going to have any resistance to it, but you're also going to notice that it may not match you where you are right now. Because some of those addictions lower your frequency. Some of those addictions may keep you distracted. Some of those addictions keep you, enslaved. So you have the slave self playing out. So body, and the ego too. The ego is a powerful story maker. I've talked about it. It's artificial intelligence. But when you have pure love for it, you can see how the ego has served. Without the ego, you couldn't have had that polarized world and really be caught right into it. Without the ego, you wouldn't have had all those stories because you weren't accessing other things. It all served. Does it still serve now? Not really. Because we stepped out of that inverted world. We're moving ourselves out of it. So, but you love the ego for everything it's done. You can set it free. You could say thank you. Or, you know, we're good. We had our experience. We had our fun and blast and whatever else we want to talk about. So that's the thing, is going into that state. When we can experience pure love for our body, we will also better communicate with our body and move more and more easily move out of our addictions, physical circumstances, besides enjoying life more. Very powerful statement. Okay? So, when we experience pure love, our body will be more, even, you know, the body could be knocking on the door and so forth, but you have an issue with it. You're not listening to it. You can't hear it because there's so much noise. But when you have pure love for the body could say, hey, listen, you're listening to me. I know you love me. I love you too, because we're all one here. We're all playing together. And it will say what it needs to adjust. And in pure love, there's an honoring. In pure love, you're going to say, okay, we're working together. So let's create an environment that nurtures all aspects of ourselves as we're playing through it. So moving through addictions, moving through different situations within our bodies, ourselves, becomes a lot easier. The level of communication, the feedback, or anything of that nature comes into play much more powerfully. And while you're doing that, you're enjoying it more. You feel more free. You can be okay. You can have a lot of judgment about certain feelings, certain experiences that the body may have. You know, pain, for example, or whatever that nature. But when you have pure love and you're allowing that expression to be, it changes things very powerfully. Very powerfully. So this is the thing, to utilize all of that, because this is what we're talking about right now. Did you have to say something, or?
Only when you're done, and then I'll ask a question.
You have a question? Okay. Okay, so pure love brings forth the highest version of yourself and world reality. I've alluded to all of that in our so far since we started to now in this particular episode. But when you're looking at it, when you're seeing things through the pure love eyes, you're bringing the highest version of yourself. And what do I mean by the highest version? That is the freest version. It is the version that is coming forth as an expression, as you. But it is the highest version. It's no longer the lower version that's really entangled, really caught up in the inverted world and whatever those judgments and labels and whatever else is played out. So you're going to be seeing the highest version of yourself and world reality. You're going to see the highest version of the world, your reality of your world. You're going to see it as what? Opportunities, not only to get what you need to get through it, but an opportunity to change it, to upgrade it, and so forth, to match you more and more. It becomes much more fluid, much more flexible, and so forth. When you're looking at things, when pure love brings, when you're tapping into that pure love, and that pure love is within yourself. Okay, we're going to continue addressing questions, but you had the questions, so let's...
Yes, someone was asking about any tips to stay in pure love as the world stage gets more chaotic. It seems that the environment is getting very heated.
Yes, and that's how you change it, by allowing this pure love to come through, because that will accelerate the changes. Okay? You're not putting any focus at that point in time of what's happening, what's wrong, what's right, whatever, who's doing what, who's not doing what, or that these fictional authorities have control over me or anything of that nature. When you have pure love, it really changes the whole dance. So it starts off within your own experience, your immediate experience physically, but also in your extended different realities, being your personal home reality and extended playground realities, and then the collective reality. So when you're looking at it, yes, of course things are heating up. Yes, of course the polarization has been intensified. But it's just basically allowing us to saturate, get what we need out of it, but also to see it so that it actually has a way for us to notice that all of that is playing out, and that now we say, okay, does this serve or not? Many of us have gone into what we call a sleep state and have not even seen how things have been changing and building up. I know we've had all different stages of restrictions and so forth from, several hundred years ago, and it always changes, it just keeps shifting. So now we're at another level right now. But this time we're going to use it much more powerfully. It's not only just, having another version of it. We're basically going to use it now to really complete whatever we need to complete and move forward. So the question is, how can you have that pure love with all the stuff heating up, or?
Yeah, how can you stay in a pure love? Let me see, where is it?
Okay, I think I got
But it's just any tips to stay in pure love as the world gets more and more chaotic.
Okay. Yeah. So, as the world gets more and more chaotic, and so always go into your heart and say, okay, I activate within myself the pure love. I choose to see completely with pure love all that's playing out. It changes the view. It changes the way you see things. And because you're seeing it that way, you're also contributing in a very powerful way to transform things a lot quicker and also to create a different environment. Believe it or not, all of this so-called intensification and chaos is actually breaking down the layers so we can experience pure love, to experience our sourceness. Not to demise or minimize our human experience, but to be able to experience it even much higher, more purified state, in our natural state. This is the thing. So whatever you're choosing, if it's emotionally charging or whatever else, you just remind yourself. You can do the process I've shared many times. Okay? So if you want to do it before that, okay, you can close your eyes for a moment or whatever it is. I now fully embody. I call forth and fully embody my multidimensional soul. Yes, then you say multidimensional soul, activate the highest home frequency that my body and environment can take. What is that frequency? That's the frequency that has been able to gain in other incarnations, in other dimensions, in other playgrounds. You now ask your source essence, I choose to activate the highest source essence within me that I can now embody fully, or something of that nature. You can also ask your body to activate its fullest degree of its innate consciousness and innate frequency. And you ask it to all align. Then take a look at everything that's playing out, whatever your focus point goes in. Acknowledge what you're seeing. Acknowledge it. Thank it for its presence. Thank it for its polarity. Thank it for whatever it is. And then within you, you could say, I now uncover, activate my purest form of love, and I choose to share that love with whatever's playing out right now. So the more chaotic, yes, first you want to pay attention to what brings up for you, because that's your true love showing you that those are the things that actually interfere. But by doing that, you actually now access more of that pure love, and you could see things much more clearly, and it's easier to move through it. Because when you're in that state of pure love, it's not sticky, or at least not as sticky. Because if you're actually pure love, then you see it. It's just a beautiful dance and whatever else. But it changes things in a very powerful way. So that's the thing. You can use that process as an opportunity for you to be able to bring yourself up to accessing more of that pure love. But see, you could also ask yourself the question, because this will happen too, as you're getting triggered, is that my purest love expression? The answer may come, no, it's not. So I choose to see it in the most purest love way of seeing it, or in this case, I choose to see it in pure love. Then you could see that that was just a dance of play, whatever it is, and you can acknowledge it, thank it, and love it, and free it. A lot easier that way. See, the love frequency, the oneness frequency are taking a bigger and powerful role. And then, of course, all the other frequencies and downloads and so forth that have been going on are helping us to move through things a lot quicker, because it wasn't as easy before to move through your programs. It was not as easy to see from a pure love state when the world was at different stages years ago. For the last 10,000 or so years, we started to see it a little bit more clearly in '87. We saw it at the end of 2012 going into thing, and we started to see it even further in 2020, but we're into 2021. It's getting clearer every day. It's getting clearer every day. It also brings up stuff too for us to be able to clear through it. But the thing is, it doesn't require the same effort. Now, sometimes it may seem like effortful because we're digging deeper, we're getting into the more crusty stuff, the more intensified stuff, and so forth. But the thing is, before, what people call the healing processes or the purging process was so laborful in comparison to what it is now. The only time it becomes harder is when we're still grabbing into it. We got our teeth bitten into it. We're grabbing on for dear life to an old version of ourselves. That's the only thing that slows things down. Okay? All right, question time. That was a question anyways, but...
Well, I was going to add too, also, because we've talked about it before, about not feeding our ego extra ammunition to keep us distracted. So also being aware of what we're paying our attention to, putting our attention on, because that can just put us in a spin as well,
yes,
that we don't need to have. Because if we need to look at something, it will show up.
Yes.
Some way. It doesn't mean you have to be looking at stuff to get triggered, but sometimes you can also put yourself in a state of distraction and overwhelm that keeps you just spinning, and you accomplish nothing, and you can't access it. It doesn't allow you to access your pure love very well.
Yes, exactly. Well said. The thing is too, with everything that's playing out right now, our attention is being drawn all over the place. And, I've heard it from many people. Oh, did you see what's going on here? Did you see what's going on there? How could... and these end up being a distraction. Now, of course, they're going to trigger you and whatever else, and that's great. You want to use that. But the thing is, don't go for the distractions just to be triggered. Like Kimberly said, the triggers will come up anyways as required, and stay focused whatever trigger comes on. Of course, you want to write it down, take a look at what the story is, program, belief systems that we've applied to it, labels, definitions, or whatever else that we apply to it, so that you can move through it a lot quicker. Of course, we're being supported and so forth. Right now, if you see stuff going on, what you call chaos or something that does not match you, you say, okay, let the love go into it, but you now focus on how your world looks, how you feel, in the sense of bringing that love into your expression, into your reality, and start seeing, I choose to create my reality through this pure love. I choose to create my reality and interactions with others in pure love. I choose to see everything as pure love. These are the statements you can make to yourself. And as I choose to see everything as pure love, then guess what? It becomes more clear for you to be able to move through things a lot quicker, and it also shifts everything around you. So the reality is not fed that older modality, and that's the thing. Okay, just make sure you mark the times and stuff.
I will. I'm just going to
Perfect.
get to the I'm just checking Facebook quickly.
Okay. There was a list that I didn't
I have my
provide
list.
you.
I'm just checking to see if there was any for clarification.
Okay.
Michael's asking, would I be right in saying when we experience unconditional love, nothing can beat or say any other thoughts melt away?
Yes, yes, exactly. So when you're going into what we call pure love, that's really into that, because unconditional love is already a huge step up from the conditional love. So yes, if you're unconditional love, you move through things a lot quicker, you get to see the gift and the gem behind it and so forth, because now you see everything in perfection. When you're going into pure love, you actually go to the next level of perfection, and it doesn't have, because unconditional love basically still has some levels of conditions sometimes, because there's a level of tolerance that is established. I can unconditional love this, 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 and this, and then sometimes it tricks you because you see something that goes even beyond where you are even acceptable for that. Many of us have had unconditional love with different experience, and then we can, we can get to push to a max where we trigger it. Now, the reason it's being triggered at that point in time is to show us that those darn programs are still there, or whatever the definition, or whatever is going on, so that you can actually go through the process of purging it all out. But at the same time, when you're in that state of pure love, which is the next step up from unconditional love, or basically source love, then yeah, you move through anything and everything with ease, and you're basically now looking at perfection in all of it, because all of it is perfect regardless. Okay, you look at your life with that pure love, you're not going to see any mistakes, because there are no mistakes. You made choices, you made if you have to look at what a mistake is that you misunderstood something to have a particular experience, but that misunderstanding was necessary to bring you to that experience, and that misunderstanding was the part that actually allowed you to have that experience to take you to the next level, because that was a requirement, as a conscious selector of that experience, even though the ego mind will say otherwise, and other statements will say otherwise. But so you see it for the beauty. I've worked with people that have passed on, for example, and then connected with their souls afterwards, because they were presenting to share some information or whatever it is. And when they would present, of course, it was very, very different at that point in time. It saw its life that it had on planet Earth, for example, as a play, as a dance, and so forth, and saw it very differently. And it didn't matter how entangled they got into it, or how many so-called perceived mistakes it made. It saw no mistakes. It just saw opportunities, and may have seen that, hey, I could have pushed that even further. So this is the thing. So when you're looking at it, you're basically, just a simple way of saying it, you're almost looking at it from a disembodied source essence, rather than. And that's why I was saying right at the beginning, is that for you to choose to come here, you have to see it from pure love state. Because if you don't, then you're going to really now, depending on whatever experiences you may have had as a record of memory, you would have been very judgmental and selective to, even though the ego is not involved, but there are certain experiences that may have left an imprint or something in your say, your multidimensional soul, or even your human entity and so forth, that you would have made different choices. Oh, no, I don't want to have that. Versus where, hey, why would you take on something that is intense? Well, because at that point you saw it as an opportunity. You saw it as pure love. You saw it as an experience. You didn't see it as good, bad, right, wrong. Of course, then we got conditioned here to see it as good, bad, wrong, and whatever else, right? Okay.
So, you're ready for a question? Is my mic registering?
Yep.
Okay, because someone said they couldn't hear me earlier. Okay. So this is number one. Okay. 20.
Well, I didn't know we were just starting. I thought we already had questions. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the first question, official question.
Oh, official
Yeah,
question.
the other
yes.
one was just like a clarification of what we were talking about.
Okay,
So
perfect.
now these are all over, like,
They're going to go all over the
yeah.
place. Okay.
So, all right. If we are living high, but if we are vibing high, 4D and above, could 3D stuff like vaccinations affect us, even if one has taken the shot to comply with social rules? This comes up so much.
Yeah, as long as you are complying and taking on, the shot or whatever it is, you will be affected by it to the degree that you choose to be affected by it. Because what happened is you didn't make a choice of your own, you just decided to comply to match what the social requirements were. So you basically, by doing that choice, you lowered your frequency. Now, to what degree it's going to impact you will depend on you. Can you reverse it later? It's going to be a little harder, but yes, if you choose to do so, but you're not choosing it to do so because you have a judgment about the experience because you're accessing higher frequencies. It's a drop that can really slow things down, and then it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge to move out of it, but you can if you choose to. So look at the motive and say, why am I choosing this? Am I choosing it because I'm not free? Am I choosing it because others expect it of me? Others, or the fact that somehow if I don't do it, I'm going to be judged, or this, or whatever it is, right? So it's a matter of you being empowered, you deciding if you do or don't. You don't want to decide because of fear of reprimanding, or fear that the shot's going to hurt you, or anything of that nature. You make a choices because that, I know, is of a frequency that is an old world frequency that does not suit me right now, so I'm not choosing to engage with that. I'm making a choice and an empowered state not to facilitate. Now, if somebody's already done it and they're starting to shift in their consciousness and so forth, as much as the road would be a little bit bumpier and whatever else, you can move out of it. Will many do so? It all depends. It's uncertain at this point in time because it has a different frequency, it has a different motive. So for you to go say, well, I'm going to go get it done but I'm going to still keep my whole vibe, there's a contradiction there. You're settling, or you're agreeing and applying to a lower state frequency when you think that your higher state's going to play it out at this point. It's like even congesting food, and you say, well, I'm going to eat all low vibration food that's going to affect my body, but I'm going to keep my high vibration so it doesn't affect me. There's going to be situations where no other food is available and you may choose to do so, but that is again because of non-choice. And why would you put you in that position? Yeah, you can play with that, but in essence, it's all the same. It's a choice you make within yourself. I'm not going to be playing with that, and that's that. Is that going to push some buttons? Is that going to create some fear? Yeah, very possible if there's programs and so forth available at this point in time. Or the old story is like, I didn't have a choice, I had to do it because of work, because of this, because of that, or whatever it is. When you stand on your own and say, hey, I'm not interested in that. I don't play in that field. And it doesn't matter if the whole family is saying certain things, or they're going to disown you, or the fact that they don't want to have you visit. Hey, that's what you choose to play with. Choose to play with it. I'm not choosing. But in that empowered state, your connections will be more of those higher vibes. I know a lot of people that are refusing because of fear, because of the fact that what it looks like or could happen or whatever it is, rather than a pure empowerment. Hey, I choose to understand that I have free choice on what experience I choose to have. Not only that, what goes into my body, and so forth.
Okay, and this is kind of in line with that question. Is it possible that the energetic structure of the vaccines will be dissolved?
Well, yes, at some point or another, as we're moving along, if you stick around, meaning that you choose not to use it as an exit out, or not to choose to go into a very low vibration so that you're no longer supported on what we call the newer platform, this new world thing, but you're choosing it and you went down that path, but you're going into this higher vibration. Yes, once it reaches a certain threshold, it will negate it 100%. But it needs to get to that higher threshold. And like I was saying before in the earlier question that we just finished doing, that it all depends on the state of your compliance or anything of that nature. So if you choose not to, and you know, there's the concern about what do they call it? Bleed off? No, what's the
not diaphragm,
shedding. So if you're looking at, well, okay, it's going to be, you know, I'm going to get affected by the shedding and so forth. Well, you know, you may choose not to entangle with certain people because once they have had that, they will emanate a certain part. But at the same point, you're not going to restrict yourself. So you're going to still hold on to that pure love and you will interact with whatever. You have to understand you can't stop the shedding, but is it going to stick to you? Is it going to affect you? Will depend on you. If you're going to hold on to somebody because you have this so-called love for them or whatever it is, that's fine, but you're at that point, you are in a state of love and whatever else, so that won't affect you because you're maintaining that higher vibration. But if you're trying to stay away because of fear, then that's a lower vibration, and then the impact can be much more noticeable.
Okay. Who decides to retool a planet or perform an experiment? A group of higher consciousness? Who gives permission for any experiment or retooling? Could one consider that this too is a control mechanism?
Well, okay. Any retooling, any reprogramming is an agreement made from you, all of you, from different states of consciousness. Okay, so when it comes to the body itself, the body is a reflection of Gaia. Every time it's retooled, it advances its capacities. Now, is it directly? It's an expression through Gaia, but it also has other encodements in it. So who decides? Collectively, as spirit, we say, okay, are we going to upgrade a playground? Are we going to design it a specific way, giving us opportunities of areas or experiences that has not been achieved on other playgrounds? Because this is why every playground is different. Every physical representation of what we call a physicality on all different dimensions, on different planets. You can have you can have one dimension, for example, of, say, fifth dimension or sixth dimension. It's still expressed on each planet, for example, differently because they have different embodiment and different retooling. So a planet gets retooled because it's time to retool it. It's time to upgrade it, time to create a new experiment, a new design. It's the same way as a car manufacturer or anybody else. You say, okay, we're going to retool our vehicle. We're going to retool this technology. We're going to retool whatever so that we can have something that is more updated, that matches with all of the other evolutionary or expanding versions of whatever. Now, there are souls that are listening to this that will directly involved in the retooling process or in agreement of what it was going to look like, because it's always presented and so forth. Now, so when the bodies were designed and everything and retooled and implanted and so forth, it was another part of the experience. When it came to an offering of putting the inverted matrix in, the inverted world and so forth, it was an offering to all the souls that were here then to say, hey, this is what we're offering, this is your opportunity, this is what we can do and experience here. The souls have said yes. If they said no, if the body said no, the human entity said no, and the multidimensional soul that was there said no, then it couldn't be done. But because there was enough that said yes, great. Now, for each and every soul that comes and goes, they know ahead of time. You have multitudes of different parallel worlds, multitudes of different planets in different physicalities to choose from. Why did you come here? Because you chose this one for a very specific reason, because it would give you something that you're not going to get anywhere else. But if you incarnate in a different planet, it will give you something that you can't have here. Now, when it was retooled, the best at that time, 15,000 years ago, was applied to all of the experiences and all. Of course, you have to understand Gaia keeps evolving each and every time. Okay, so we're just adding more enhancement to what's over there. So you have a whole archive of that. Okay, so when that's coming up forth, the expression increases, and there's more plugins of whatever's coming from other resources. As the soul's coming in and going out, all of that is, choosing at this point in time to have whatever experiences it chooses, but it has the freedom to come and go any point in time. So nothing is a control structure. It's like this. Somebody creates a game, a video game, for example, or a movie. It's your choice how much of the movie you want to enjoy, how much you want to participate, especially when you're talking about a video game. You want to learn how to play that game, how deep you want to go, how advanced you want to have that part of the game, but it's a choice that you have. But there is a structure within the game of how the game plays, and it's up to us. Now, the beauty of our video game is that it actually molds and upgrades according to our advancement, which is quite unique because most don't have that. The same thing with free will and whatever else. Free will exists, but the most free will that exists is on this planet here. Others have a very restricted so-called free will. Here we have a much open free will. And because of that free will, we made a lot of different choices, and it has created different environmental expressions and experiences and so forth that wouldn't have been as easy because there would have been more restriction. So is it restrictive? If you're going to go and play the game and you're going to follow certain parts, yes, but it's not really restrictive because you chose to be here. You can come and go and do whatever you want to do, and you can also change it. Because you have to understand, every video game has many, 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 many levels. And each of the levels are receptive to whatever state that you're coming in. So a soul can come in with a higher vibration, and we'll see the version that most suits them. At the same time, because of the multidimensional, you can actually now access all of those other versions and just get sampling of it to bring it into this focal point, which is here. Hopefully I didn't go too far with all of that, but that's
good. Someone asked this, who put this inverted matrix and why? But I'm pretty sure you answered that in episode maybe 1 and 2. Like, I think you started right at the beginning and moved your way up. So I didn't know if you wanted to go over that again or not.
Yeah, the thing is, there's so much going on all the time as beings, of course. We're always upgrading and so forth, and we want to experiment. This is the thing. It's all about experimenting. How can we play certain things, come up with some creative ideas and so forth. So there was a couple of species, 2 or 3 species that were at different times have gone through a process of saying, hey, let's do something in reverse. Let's see how that plays out. Let's see how that experiences and so forth. So this so-called inverted matrix was put into place. And the inverted matrix needed a satellite to impose it, because you have to understand all natural matrices are connected to other planets, to within the galaxy, of course in the solar systems, the galaxies, and the universe, and they're all constantly upgrading. Well, we wanted to create a closed loop, so we created and plugged in a moon and saying, okay, that's a satellite that we're going to create a restriction on how much access, and we're going to flip everything upside down, and then of course put artificial intelligence and so forth. So there were 2 hybrid, meaning that they've kind of species that came about that wanted to experience this operating system. They call it the Luciferian operating system, which I have actual episodes that cover all of that stuff. And there were hybrid reptilians and so forth that brought in. So of course you got the Draconians, you got the Anunnakis, and you got the others that were involved. But that was an introduction 5,000 years after the retooling, so that would happen 10,000 years ago. It was an offering, like I was saying earlier, and right now we're under reversal process, because that was a great experiment, a great experience, and so forth. So, if you want to get more details, there are other episodes that I get a little more in detail.
Can you talk about twin flames?
Twin
I
flames.
know you've talked about them before too, but I'm not sure where we would find it.
Okay. In Advancing Consciousness podcast,
Okay, you have a.
we have one of the podcasts that covers all of them. Covers twin souls, soul families, soulmates. I think it covers oversouls and stuff like that. It's specifically, that whole podcast is on those multiple souls. And it's Advancing Consciousness podcast. So if you're on YouTube, you will be able to find it in YouTube. Go to Advancing Consciousness podcast, because if you're watching it on Advancing Consciousness series, that's one of them, but it's on the podcast. And if you're on Facebook, you can go to Advancing Consciousness group called Advancing Consciousness podcast, and it's there also. You will scroll down and look at the names, and the names will talk about the different souls, twin souls, the difference between all of them.
Perfect. Awesome.
Okay.
Okay. Next question is NESARA GESARA thing. Will that will come?
Okay. The intent is, yes. What's happening right now, a lot of the stuff that not needed, we had agreed to bring it up forth at this point in time for some time. Again, this is just a minor stepping stone as we're going through these changes. But the thing is, we have to understand, one of the obstacles, and it's not an obstacle, it's basically an opportunity we created for ourselves, because a lot of people are holding the breath until that stuff comes out for relief. Well, that's going to impede, and that's why there's always delays and all of that stuff. How it's going to look, how it's going to unfold, how much of it will unfold, how it's all played out, will all depend on us as a collective to see how much we're going to have it govern us or not. One thing that's key to understand, we don't want to disempower ourselves. We're not here in reliance to wait for that to come forth. You're basically saying, okay, this will complement us as we are going through this transition, but I'm going to also shift and get into that state of freedom without it, and then that will only complement us to move forward. So the levels of restrictions and delays, people like to call it, and so forth, have been, yeah, okay, they're talking about, there's all these evil people and there's all these control structures and all these restrictions and so forth. Well, those only have power because of the fact that we're still, still giving power to all of that structure. But at the same time, many have gone onto the bandwagon waiting for the relief, waiting for the solution, waiting for freedom. You need to start experiencing that within yourself. So even if it doesn't roll out very soon, that you already start to experience it, and other resources will come about, and then when that comes in, you'll be much more open to receive it. So this is the thing. You can't create any reliance of any of that stuff that's going on. How it's going to roll out, what effect it's going to take, nothing of it is rock solid certain at this point in time. Everything is flexible. And like I said, if we have a dependency on it, it just delays it. So it may delay it for you first and foremost, but then it delays it from a collective perspective. And you can say, well, okay, let's not put power into that. Let me go into my empowered state. With true love, then you're going to bring whatever you require along the way in different methods or different facets. And when you're receiving whatever's coming through you, it's through an offering, because you're basically putting out there. It's not so much an energy exchange, but whatever you have, you're putting out there as a way to assist others, even if it's just energetic, if it's a sharing with immediate families or extended families or friends or whatever it is, or becoming more public or anything of that nature. It all depends what role you choose to play at this point in time.
It's like releasing any attachment to any outcomes whatsoever, because it's so up in the air and we're the determining factors.
Yes.
And so whether GESARA NESARA comes or something else comes, who knows really? And I think it's like you were saying, it's like tuning into who you truly are and operating from there and guiding yourself from that place, and know that you will be taken care of no matter what, without having an expectation.
Yeah, so when it comes to you be taken care of. It's you taking care of you. Your higher aspect of you taking care of you while you're still wrapping up the older aspect of yourself. That's all it is. And yes, like Kimberly said, you're not here to put any attachments to it. Many people have felt frustration and so forth and felt restricted because of this monetary playground system that's been put in. Eventually, this is not going to exist because it doesn't serve. It never was the original design. And ownership, control, and you know, who has power over others in resources or anything of that nature, that is not natural in any way, shape, or form. That was all in that inverted world, control world, restricted world, and whatever else that we are dissolving. So a lot of people are following all this, you know, so-called information about GESARA and NESARA coming in, and, you know, the reset coming in and all of this stuff. And then, of course, you can see all the dates that come out. It depends how deep you follow. It's this date, by that date. And then, you know, some people have been following this for 10, 15 years, I think, at this point. Because I've heard it from other people saying, well, it's 10, 15 years that we're, and we've been given dates for 10 or 15 years. Well, what's holding it back? Is it all those corrupt structures and so forth? Well, they're playing a role, but there's really not that. It's because we hadn't achieved a certain level where it's not going to become a dependency and it's not going to put us back into a sleep state. We're at a point where it's still, there's a dependency on it for it to resolute your life or to expand your life.
Next question. Can you speak to the soul swapping that you were referring to on last Soulogy? Can you elaborate on Kimberly's 4 times soul swapping, or perhaps she can speak about it? You got interrupted on Soulogy.
Take it away, girl.
No, you go ahead, honey. You're the expert. I just know what
You're the swapper.
Yeah, I know, but I had no idea that I had gone through it 4 times until the last one. So I didn't have an awareness of it because I had no awareness that even took place way back then. So. But
when you did look at it, you did, and you focused around those times, you did notice that there were a shift in your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, there was a shift.
Yeah. So each time there was a soul swap at that point in time, there was a different level of realization, a different access point within themselves. Okay. So regarding the soul swapping. This wasn't as common before, but it has. A lot of people have heard the so-called drop-ins. Okay, what ends up happening? An original soul will come in. Okay, we'll make an agreement and play out a particular role with, say, the body. Okay, so it makes an arrangement with the body and what we can call the human entity, which is the human soul. And so a multidimensional soul will come in. The multidimensional soul will come in for a very specific purpose, bringing energies from its experience. It may have had different lives on planet Earth at different times, but it's also had opportunities to have lives on other planets. In some cases, you know, very few, some cases brand new. When I say brand new, never really expressed itself. It mainly was part of the field or part of the collective expansion and so forth, but it has not, signaturized itself to come in and have a particular experience. So what was happening, the soul swapping and the drop-ins? If a soul is finished having a certain sequence of experiences, it can choose to leave. Now, because the body and its positioning in its role and the human entity's offering is still very conducive for the advancement, but the particular multidimensional soul says, I'm done with this, it can choose to leave and also make arrangements for an opening for another soul that may be queued up or interested in taking on that particular physicality to embody the physicality and create a new alignment, a new communication channel with the human entity and the physicality. Now, of course, the human entity has already been here from day one, so it has a lot of its characteristic expressions, and it won't be erased. And the same thing with the body patterns and so forth, it won't be erased. However, the multidimensional soul coming in may come in at a higher vibration and will start to work with the other levels, being the human entity and the body, to be able to create an upgrade. Sometimes it doesn't do that. It just wants to come for the experience and wants to just interject certain parts of it. Okay, so that's the drop-in part, and so a soul can come and go. And Kimberly's example there, she came in with an original soul at around the age of 21. Her soul that came in for the first 21 years was done with that experience and said, okay, I'm going to leave, but this physicality with this human entity, with this channel of experiences is pretty cool. Whoever wants it next can have it. So another soul reviewed the whole situation, reviewed all the connections, had communications with the body, had communications with the human entity, had communication with the family, the siblings, and also the mother and father. Say, hey, if I step into this, or whoever partner, if there was a partner involved, or whoever else was involved, and say, hey, this is what I'm bringing in as an offering. I don't know how long I'll be here, but this is the offering. So it would drop in. So that occurred at age 21. And then it went through the stage from 21 to 44. And then at that period of time, it's basically had said, okay, I'm done with my experience. That soul decided to leave. And again, it was repeated where another soul came in and decided that, okay, this will be perfect. I have all these alignments and I can do it. Had, again, the communication and so forth, and dropped in. Now, that particular soul was very specific because it came from a certain angelic realm type of cluster of oversouls, and decided that I'm going to go and play a very specific role to really advance things even further. And I'm going to play a very specific role energetically and also through the deprogramming and so forth that's going on. Now, so that was number 3. At a certain point, a few years back, that particular soul decided, saying, hey, I need to go for an upgrade. I'm going to be leaving for 4 months. Therefore, I'm going to have another soul come in temporarily for the 4-month period. So it was an invitation was sent out to a soul that wanted to come here, and it was okay to come in for 4 months, but at the same time would not change the arrangement too much, so that it would be able to not throw it off track, so that when the soul would return, it would be able to take the pieces from there. So that arrangement was made. Another soul came in, which was the 4th soul at that point in time. And that 4th soul came in and played a different role. And of course, I was involved at that time, meaning that I was in her life. And of course, I knew that this was going to happen because the soul had mentioned it to me, and I did share it with Kimberly. So she went through the whole experience, and she may choose to elaborate on that with the experience itself. But, another soul stepped in. That one had a very different energy in many ways. There was some alignments where there was a different energy, so it did change or emphasize certain characteristics and minimize some other characteristics, and was much more oriented in progressing a lot faster. So in that case, it did not want to dwell in certain things that weren't so interesting, and basically at that point in time kind of changed the expression, let's call it that way. Now, of course, with myself being involved with Kimberly at the time, I did feel a difference, and I also felt like there was not the same soul connection as the one that left for a period of time. Now, that occurred for 4 months. It went for an upgrade. It did whatever it needed to do, and then it swapped back. So the 3rd soul came back, and of course, it came back upgraded, and it also came back carrying a higher frequency energy. Now, when we're talking, that's in Kimberly's experience, and I'll let her say a couple of words after that. But the other thing is the soul swapping is. Now, if your soul is in your body and you're having a very limited experience and it's having a little bit of a challenge to move forward or be able to break some of the patterns, it may choose to go out of the body and embody another physicality that may have those openings, and that one could either take on that or another one. So the swapping is where the soul goes out to expand. For example, it's like saying, well, I've had enough of this experience living in, say, in Australia, just as an example, and I want to have another experience. So I'm going to move abroad to, say, France or any part in Europe, UK, whatever it is. Okay, let's say UK because they're the same language. So I'm going to move there, and I'm going to be there for a few years to kind of get a feel for it, because what I'm having in Australia, I feel that I can have somewhere else differently, because what they're experiencing in the UK. I'm just using these as an example, that I'm going to go do that for a while and then return, okay, back to Australia, bringing some of the stuff that you've learned from the UK and vice versa. So your body, if it's stuck, if your soul feels stuck and it wants to have a different experience, it will leave, go and embody another physicality that becomes available, and it can swap around and then eventually go back to the same physicality. Sometimes it goes to another physicality, chooses not to come back, and then that one becomes available for another soul to come in. So these are some of the things that weren't that common before, have become much more common because things are changing very quickly, and there are more souls that accomplish certain things and will leave, even including the so-called extras and whatever else are having drop-ins and drop-outs and so forth. So they will and will not have souls, and then at some point in time, if it gets to a certain level of upgrade, it may choose a full embodiment, meaning that a soul will come in and start to navigate with all the parts that are playing out. So that's the soul swapping thing. That's been around, it really started to accentuate in right around 2012. There was more of it in 87 on, but it really ramped up in 2012, and it's been ramping up. So there's a lot more exchanges going on, and there are people out here that don't realize it, but if you actually pay attention to where you had a pinnacle change, and energetically, or even the way that you navigated, and it's like, today I'm this way, and then a day before, a couple of days after, it's like, yeah, I'm not even going there, forget it. Sometimes you realize that is an awakening process that you have, or a breaking down of a layer, but other times it could be the soul coming in and say, hey, we're not going there, forget it, this is where we're going to go. So it actually focuses on different things. So Kimberly, please explain just briefly the one that you recall, because you were present at the time.
Okay, I'll just briefly explain that one, because the other ones I don't really have any recollection of being different other than it matches the time. The one that came in at 21 and left at 44, that's the time I was married. So I don't know if that has a coincidence or what that is. So the other one, it just felt different. I probably wouldn't have understood what was going on if Franco hadn't have, said that's what was going on, because, I didn't get a warning in my head or whatever that something was going to take place. I just felt empty for a day as the soul swapping happened. There was a day of, it seemed like nobody was in my body. And so it was very uncomfortable and disconnected. And then the next day when the other soul came in, for sure that other soul had a different energy, agenda, did things differently, like it drove the body differently or whatever. I don't know how to explain it. And I had no connection to anybody around me. I had no connection to Franco, which seemed so weird. And on a soul level, there was just no connection there. No connection with my friends that I was hanging out with. They just seemed like strangers to me. It was an interesting experience. So, I just went with it, of course, and you have no choice.
Well, yes and no.
I guess so, yeah. But I just, there was no fighting it, of course. It was just, okay, it was just interesting to observe the difference in a bit of a personality change in some ways of being a little more assertive and less, I don't know what the word is. Less, not tolerant.
Complimenting, you were, one of the things I noticed that you were very serving, complimentary in the sense of,
oh yeah,
always
obliging.
Putting people's interest, obliging and putting other people's interest first. And then the other one really didn't.
Really didn't do that.
No. And it was very noticeable change. To the point where, even the consideration of intimacy or anything of that nature was on the table. It's like, okay, this almost feels like
we're
somebody else together. We're cheating on each other. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it was quite weird that way too. Because you don't have that connection. So yeah, it was an interesting experience. I was glad when mine came back, and not sure, because to me, if I hadn't known that was going on, I don't know if I would have been able to identify that was indeed what happened. And so it was an interesting experience, nonetheless. But yeah,
Perfect.
because I didn't feel different. Because even in the past, I always felt like I had the same soul. When Franco did tell me that I'd had several souls, I thought, well, that didn't feel like it didn't make sense to me, because I didn't really feel any different. But then when I look back and saw some of the big changes that took place in my life, then I could see where it coincided with that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, even the period, another soul came in because it wasn't interested in the getting married part and playing that role. Then at around age 44, that's when it said, okay, that soul was done, and the next one came in, and that one says, hey, we're not going to support this anymore. We're gonna shift this puppy. So that's when, you know, you decided to.
Well, plus at that point in my life, I was really moving into looking into myself more, and I wanted to fully dedicate my time to that.
Yep.
So.
Okay. So anyways, that's the soul swapping component, and what Kimberly had said, basically, because your human entity has a lot of different memories of different capacities and so forth that have had from previous lives, and same thing with the body in an innate consciousness. So another soul can come in, and if it plays a very powerful role, it will emphasize certain characteristics that wasn't emphasized from the previous souls. So anyways, okay.
Okay. Do you want one more question?
Just one more.
One more. Okay. This is the last one. Will you talk about what's happening in June?
Okay, cancel that one.
Okay. Next.
Okay. I think I covered it a few times now. Basically, what's happening is it's another level of self-access of ourselves. We are having right now, for quite a while, and it's one after another, different unstaged and unmatched sequence. So it's go up and down, up and down, up and down of different things. And then, of course, on the 15th, we have another major surge, which will run a few days. And I think it might start even the day before, but another surge to prepare us to go into this completion of this cycle. And then coming into June, depending on the state that you're in, you're going to be able to see the picture clearer, depending on your stage, of course, of what is playing out, and you'll get a little more of a maneuverability within the existing reality. So basically, you'll get more of a glimpse of this new world within yourself, and more sampling around you, or in this case, be able to see more of those layers around you, and less of the inverted old world and all the intensities. Is it going to be like super profound? No, but enough to be noticed, enough, depending again, like where you're at, to be able to get a better grasp. Why? Because we're stepping up to another level, and at the same time, the chaoticness is going to continue to accentuate. I had another word, but I can't think of it. I can't say it now. Accentuate in many, many manners. But because of that encodement, the ones that are more ready are going to see it more in the background, meaning it's happening in the screen, but you're not engaged in the screen. So what it does is it kind of creates a little level, another level of disconnect. And when I say disconnect, you're not going to be drawn in to all the stuff that's going on. You're going to feel more of your empowerment and more of holding your own space of sorts. Now, there's going to be others happening in July, of course. It's another level of that. We're having some more into the fall and so forth. A lot of the intensities may last right to the end of 2022, okay? But we're getting freer and freer and freer as individuals, but also in larger clusters of collective. Now, again, none of this is carved in stone. These are a constantly simulated, constant feedback and a constant adjustment that is occurring. We are doing this from a back-end perspective. When I say we, that means all of you that are listening to this, even though you may not be conscious of it. It's not outside of you. Even when our brother, sister souls that may be taking a more direct role in it and that may be conscious of those roles, it is not done overriding you or all of us. It's always complementary, and there's always an exchange of what you're ready for or not. Now, with some of these changes that are going on, they're going to be segmented in a way. Certain areas on the planet, depending on the clusters that are there or the groups or people that are there, will experience changes differently than others. Okay? Depending on how much density is there or how much restrictions there is versus the openness. So you're going to find some areas are going to be more noticeable in the reality of them, and others will feel not much of a change or will feel even more of intensified. But across the board, depending on how you choose to experience it, the intensification will continue, but we will have more access of be able to see the layers and actually detach ourselves, and I shouldn't say detach because I don't like that word, disconnecting from or creating more of a slack in being tossed around by whatever's playing out on a collective. Because again, you're going to come to the realization more and more as you're going along throughout the year, but again, it will be a kind of a bigger jump in June and then more jumps afterwards, to realize that you don't have to get caught up in the whirlwind, you don't have to be in the storm, and that you have the freedom to navigate without being pulled in all of that. So as much as it's still all around you, and there's the other thing too, is that many of you are also experiencing other family members, friends, and so forth that are getting caught up in the whirlwind, and it can be tugging on your emotions. It could be your kids, could be your siblings, could be your friends, could be your co-workers, could be anything. And you can be pulling through that. So this will be another wave to say, okay, I see you with true love. I allow you to have your experience, but I'm not going to get caught up in the whirlwind. And if I can share something, I will, but at the same time, I'm not going to go down the slide with you, in a sense, if that's the thing. So that's what we're looking in June. There is some back-end stuff that's also happening in June that will facilitate that. There will be an arrangements to have some of the souls that are on the planet right now to take a little bit more active role in creating a council, even though the council's there, but to take more of an active role in the council. But that's kind of on the back end. You will probably notice it if you're involved. If not, you may be involved and not know about it because it's from a higher perspective, or meaning you're a multidimensional soul that may be playing that part and you may not be conscious of it. So that's, but again, that's preparing more feedback and rollout as we go along. The intent is really to make some huge shifts along the way, and that's one of the factors that are coming into June. So the other thing that you will notice going into June, that you'll be able to move through your programs even a little easier without having to be kicked in the pants really hard. Again, you're the one that navigates that. It's not something outside of you, but at the same time, you're the one that can decide, energetically and so forth. It's going to be supportive and say, hey, it doesn't have to be so rough, doesn't have to be so difficult, and I can flow things with easier. So those are just kind of the tidbits that I can share about June. All of it is beneficial for us. All of it is supporting us in one way or another, and that's where we're at. Okay. So that was it? Okay,
That's
cool.
it for today, honey.
All right. Anything else you wanted to share?
Not at this time. I'm putting, so people know I'm still copy and pasting your questions.
Okay.
I know you can't get to everybody, and people have posted questions today that we didn't get to because I was doing ones from last time. So. Okay.
Yeah, there is still some other ones that came in between too.
Yeah.
So we haven't even got to that list yet. So, anyways, we will continue doing the Q&As with different topics. depending on what the topic comes up along the way. Today was true love, or the true power of pure love. And that was important for us to experience that, so that's why that topic came in. And then we got to play with the questions. So, guys, thank you again. Thank you for your support. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Thumbs up and all that stuff does help a little bit. Probably not a tremendous amount, but it does help a little bit. If you feel like supporting us financially and otherwise, we do have a link in the description that you can support us so we can stay focused on this work. For anybody that is not aware and you're living in the States, because that will probably be easier to travel, we will be doing an event at Soulogy Fest in Sedona. That's coming on the 28th, 29th, 30th, and a little bonus on the 31st of May, which is a little over 2 weeks away from now. So if you want to join us, I do have a link on my Facebook page. I didn't put it in the description, but I'll add it in the description when I go and put the time-stamped questions in. I'll put that in there. I meant to do it, and I totally forgot about it. So that's coming up, and if you want to check out any of the workshops, the links is there. If you want to join the community and you haven't done so, you can join, and we'll send you emails of different things coming up. And that's it. So go out and have a blast. Thank you again for this beautiful co-creation. Thank you for being involved in this beautiful journey that we are doing together. And until next time, go have a blast.